Minimum wage is discretionary. Disclaimer: this story may qualify as pro-revenge, but I feel my hand in it was in C. My first part-time job was in a cafe starting when I was 16. As jobs go, it was pretty good. It was minimum wage, of course, but the owner was flexible with schedules. We got discounted food, and my co-workers were generally lovely people. The only issue I had occurred when I turned 18. In my country, UK, minimum wage is set at one level for 16 to 17 years, but then rises by around 30% for 18 plus. We'd always been paid cash in hand weekly, so I knew things were not exactly kosher, but when my first pay envelope after my 18th birthday came, I was still surprised not to see my pay bump. Thinking it was just an oversight, I informed the owner that I hadn't received my pay increase, but they waved their hand and said, "Oh no, minimum wage is discretionary," in a matter-of-fact way. I laughed at this, and they acted like I was naive and said, "Trust me, it is. I can't pay you anymore, but you are free to try your luck elsewhere." So that's exactly what I did. My colleague, who had also just turned 18, and I had both found a new place paying more than double our current wage within a few weeks. The only issue was that I was asked to start with only a few days' notice on a weekend I was scheduled to work. I called the owner to let them know I had found a new role and could work my other shifts, but not at the weekend, and they told me my notice period was 2 weeks, to which I responded, "Oh no, my notice period is discretionary." They didn't like that, told me not to bother coming back. That was the last I had heard of them until a few months later, when I received a letter informing me the government was investigating them on my behalf for unpaid wages. It turns out a colleague I had enlightened about minimum wage, of course, not being discretionary, had also left and contacted HMRC. A couple of weeks after, I received my cheque from the owner in the post, and I found out that within a few months the cafe had to close and let their staff go because of unpaid taxes. All because they didn't want to pay us for £83 per hour. Edit. I had said £5.80, looked at the wrong figure.
Old boss steals owed money through mandatory retirement payments and tells me if I don't like it, to take it up with the authorities, so I did. A few years back now, I worked for a smallish locally owned company owned by two friends. The company was going strong when I started, but after 10 years there the place was going downhill fast. One day we discovered the bosses had not been making superannuation payments to us, my country's required retirement fund that employees and employers are required to pay into, for over 2 years, owning tens of thousands over all the employees. This was the final straw for me, and I gave them 2 weeks' notice, as I was basically the last manager there. Most of the employees also quit with me, and this really pissed off the owners, who thought I was somehow overreacting. I made them ensure they would pay me what was owed, or I would get the tax agency involved. A few weeks later I get an email detailing repayment significantly less than what was owed. When I emailed back, they told me they had taken hours I owed in time in lieu out of what was owed in superannuation, and if I had a problem with it, they would have no issue speaking to the authorities about the hours I stole from them. This is, of course, highly illegal. For one, we had no contract laying out that I would have to repay owed hours. Secondly, they most definitely cannot take that money from my superannuation repayments. I decided not to reply, save the email, and move straight onto the tax agency. They look after superannuation affairs. This took a very long time, as the process is very slow, but after about a year and several different tax representatives, I one day got a call out of the blue from one of the owners. This was a very angry, threatening call asking why I had reported them to the tax agency and why I was determined to ruin their lives. I told him exactly why I did it and that he reaped what he sowed. A few days later I get an email from the tax agency telling me they will be repaying all that was owed plus interest accrued over the now 3+ years that they didn't pay. They would have also been put on a blacklist of employers had they not sold the business a few months after we left. For more background, after I quit, I took 2 weeks off to be alone with my thoughts and relax for a bit, before accepting one of the many job offers I received once my departure had been made public in our industry. I walked away with a higher pay, a more secure job, and the position every company in the industry was fighting for at the time, as the company I chose won the contract and they gave the position to me.
I have to wait in the queue, okay, if you insist. So I work at a small garden center, and we have a system where if the queue is getting too long, the person on tills calls on the radio to open another till. Basically means that staff can be doing other things when there aren't enough customers to justify having 2 or 3 or 4 tills open. I'm sure you can guess where this is going already. Over the last week or so, it's been absolutely baking by UK standards. And to top it off, our till area is what used to be the main greenhouse before the site got expanded. Old greenhouse, little airflow, scorching weather. It was hot as balls in there. This was causing a combination of angry customers and exhausted staff. And to top it off, our uniform is more what you'd call guidelines than an actual uniform. Navy polo, toe cap, boots, and you're good to go. So when I get the call for a second till, there's about 3 or 4 groups in the queue, and I go to walk past the queue with some sweets to keep me sweet and my water bottle to go to the tills. Until a 6-foot rugby player looking type at the back of the queue puts his arm to stop me. What follows went something a little like this. "Hey, mate, don't you know what a queue is?" "Me, but I'm." "And no buts, you don't get to skip." "Me, I'm just going." "And I don't carry your weight like the rest of us." At this point, with this guy getting pretty angry and turning a very deep shade of crimson, I look at the till with an exasperated look, catch my colleague's eye and just go, "Fine then, and wait." It was too hot to argue over this, and I wasn't going to risk this getting physical. My colleague with a knowing smile picks up her radio and says, "Can I have another till, please? I don't think Carador can make it." No one arrives, probably due to a combination of radio issues, brakes colliding, and not my problem. So we wait. Only takes about 5 minutes to get to the front, but angry dude is getting redder by the second. So he goes up to be served with a lab. Finally, I'm now in the front of the queue. Go up to my till, log in and call out, "Can I help anyone on this side?" There was a loud, "Are you fucking with me?" from angry dude. But my colleague was quick to loudly point out that I did try and explain several times that he got very aggressive with me for doing so and was honestly lucky we were serving him at all. He decided to just leave rather than embarrass himself any further. Left his purchases on the desk and just left. I'm glad I didn't get in trouble for the one, but it was a fun bit of MC.
Dent wants to play stupid games, then let's play stupid games. So I live in South Korea, but I work for a US company in South Korea. And because I work for an American company, and I'm one of the few employees of my company that is American in South Korea, my company doesn't issue me this letter that basically says I'm employed in South Korea. So this means I have restrictions on my Korean bank account. I can only withdraw 250,000 won, about $216 a day, from an ATM, and if I go in person to a teller, I can only withdraw 1 million won, about $870 a day. This normally doesn't present a problem for me. I also can't have a debit credit card. I get a bank book which is kinda like an electronic checkbook that's a physical thing you carry, FYI. I use my American bank for most of my day-to-day spending. But it did once. I signed a lease for a new apartment and the deposit was 10 million won, about $8,700. Yes, this is normal for Korea. So I transferred the money from my American bank to my Korean bank, and I went to the bank in person to transfer the money to my landlord. I get there and the teller tells me I can only transfer 1 million per day. My first idea was to ask my landlord if she'd be cool with me transferring her 1 million won a day for 10 days. She doesn't like that idea. So I'm sitting there arguing and the bank manager comes out. He's a nice enough man and speaks good English. Basically he says because of my type of my account there is no way I can transfer more than 1 million a day. So I need this money and I'm thinking, and the light bulb goes off in my head. I close my account till I get my money. Manager, yes, we would give you the cash. And if I close my account can I open a new one? Manager, of course. Is there a waiting period after closing my account to open a new one? Manager, oh. Fantastic. Please close my account. Manager, sure. I will need your bank book and we will destroy it. Hand them my bank book and they destroy it. Sign some papers to close the account. Bank manager closes the account and gives me all the money in the account in an envelope. Manager, anything else I can help you with today? I smile, pull out my passport. Yes, I'd like to open a new bank account. Manager looks at me, and it dawns on him what I just did. He laughs, shakes his head and goes, sure, not a problem. I opened a new account, deposited 10,000 won, and left with my deposit in my pocket. I believe this qualifies for malicious compliance because I followed the bank's rules and it resulted in them having to do more work.
Check out my other splendid videos.